Gayle King is speaking out following her ex-husband William Bumpus's public apology for cheating on her nearly 40 years ago after she revealed the details of when she caught him being unfaithful.
At 71 years old, Gayle King has spent over 4 decades building one of the most respected careers in American broadcast journalism. As co-anchor of CBS Mornings and editor-at-large of the Oprah Magazine, she is a household name trusted by millions of viewers every morning. But behind the polished studio presence lies a personal chapter that has haunted public conversation for over 3 decades. On May 27, 2026, King sat across from Alex Cooper on the Call Her Daddy podcast and delivered her most candid, most complete account yet of the night her marriage ended. What she revealed is not just a story of betrayal. It is a story of a woman who turned the worst night of her life into the fuel for an extraordinary future. The woman behind the anchor desk. Understanding why the divorce from William Bumpus cuts as deeply as it does requires understanding who Gayle King was before she became the national figure millions recognize today. The marriage was not a celebrity union. It was the union of 2 young, ambitious people who believed in the life they were building together, which is precisely what made its collapse so total. Gayle Patrice King was born on December 28, 1954, in Chevy Chase, Maryland, to Peggy King, a homemaker, and Emmett Scott King, an electrical engineer. She was the second of 4 daughters. Her early childhood was shaped by her father's professional postings abroad. Between the ages of 6 and 11, the family relocated to Ankara, Turkey, where her father was stationed for work. This exposure to diverse cultures at a young age broadened her worldview and adaptability. After returning to the United States, King pursued higher education at the University of Maryland, College Park, graduating in 1976 with a degree in psychology. That academic foundation in human behavior has been visible across every major interview she has conducted since. It is the reason she asks the questions she does. It is also, arguably, the reason she spent 3 years after her husband's infidelity trying to understand rather than simply walking away. Her foray into the media industry began as a production assistant at WJZ-TV in Baltimore, where she formed a lifelong friendship with then-anchor Oprah Winfrey. From Baltimore, King moved to WUSA-TV in Washington, D.C., then to WDAF-TV in Kansas City, Missouri, before landing at CBS affiliate FSB-TV in Hartford, Connecticut in 1981, where she would anchor the news for 18 consecutive years. It was in that Hartford, Connecticut world that she met William G. Bumpus. The two met at a restaurant in the early 1980s and married in 1982. Bumpus served as Connecticut's Assistant Attorney General. More meaningfully, King herself encouraged and supported him through obtaining his Yale law degree, a fact Bumpus publicly acknowledged in May 2026. She believed in him fully. That investment is what makes the betrayal not merely painful, but personally devastating. The couple welcomed Kirby in 1986, 1 year before William Jr. was born. By every external measure, the family King had built looked exactly like the life she had worked toward. What none of those markers could show was what was already shifting inside the marriage at a level King has said repeatedly she genuinely did not detect. June 24, 1990, at 9:16 p.m. There is a detail in Gayle King's telling of the night her marriage ended that has stopped listeners cold every time she has mentioned it across 36 years. She knows the exact date and time, not approximately, exactly. June 24, 1990, at 9:16 p.m. That precision is not performance. It is the involuntary recall of a moment so shattering that the mind simply refused to release it. King had been away traveling. Her flight was canceled, and she returned home earlier than planned, earlier than Bumpus expected. The alarm was set, she recalled, which she thought, "That's strange because you're in here by yourself. You're a big, grown-ass man." He never sets the alarm, and that small, strange detail was the first crack in the surface of an ordinary evening. What followed unfolded in seconds. Bumpus came out of the bedroom wearing only a towel, told King she could not come into the room. She pushed past him. She walked into her own bedroom in her own home, and behind the door, crouching, wrapped in one of King's own towels, was a woman she knew. Not a stranger from another part of their lives. A close friend. A woman who was also married to someone else. The simultaneous betrayal from husband and close friend is what King has described across multiple retellings as the detail that made it feel not just painful, but complete. In a 2016 Vanity Fair interview, King said, "I'm not a huge fan of the woman I caught naked with my now ex-husband on June 24, 1990 at 9:16 p.m., but I don't remember the details." That last clause, the insistence that she does not remember the details despite knowing the exact timestamp, is one of the most psychologically revealing things she has ever said about that night. Some memories are too precise to look at directly. Her children were in the house when it happened. King constructed an explanation on the spot, telling them their father had gone next door because of a burglar and was helping to catch the intruder. Weeks later, her young son innocently asked whether Daddy had caught the burglar yet. Even Oprah, who has heard virtually every story in King's life, was reportedly caught off guard when she first heard it. What happened next carries its own remarkable dimension. King did not leave immediately. "If I hadn't had children, it would have been game over," she revealed. "But we went to counseling, tried to work it out. We actually got divorced and got back together. And then I realized he hadn't really changed." That final clause changes the entire shape of the story. There were two endings. The first did not hold. Bumpus was unfaithful again. King, already exhausted by monitoring, checking the hood of his car for warmth, going through his phone, reached the point where she simply chose herself. Not out of anger, out of clarity. A 2026 CBS Mornings interview added one last layer of dark, retrospective humor. King revealed that Bumpus had forced her to give up her dog during their marriage, adding with characteristic wit, which should have been a clue. The remark is funny and painful in equal measure. The apologies that took decades to arrive. For over 2 decades after the 1993 divorce, William Bumpus said nothing publicly. While King periodically referenced the infidelity in interviews, Bumpus maintained complete silence. He built his legal career, transitioning from the Attorney General's office into private practice, specializing in family law, handling divorces and custody disputes. The irony of a man whose infidelity ended a marriage now practicing family law is one King has addressed with grace rather than point scoring. The silence broke in July 2016. A pointed Vanity Fair comment reignited public conversation. Through his representative, Bumpus issued a statement to Page 6, saying he had been haunted with this life-altering choice and publicly apologizing for the major transgression that had dramatically changed all of their lives. He added, "Gayle was a great wife, an excellent mother, and a fantastic co-parent. I am eternally grateful for all that she has done and continues to do to enrich my life and the lives of our incredible adult children." He then stated he had spent 26 years striving to be a better man and father. It was the first public acknowledgement in more than 2 decades. 10 years later, the same pattern repeated. King's May 27, 2026. Call Her Daddy appearance drew national attention. Bumpus responded the same day through TMZ, apologizing to King, to Kirby, and her husband Virgil, to William Jr. and his wife Elise, and to their 3 grandchildren. He acknowledged that his actions had been entirely his own, that King had every right to tell her story. He also credited her for having encouraged and supported him through Yale Law School, the detail that most clearly reveals the depth of what was sacrificed and what was given. King's response on May 28, 2026, was disarming in its generosity. "I was surprised that you guys got him," she told TMZ. "A, that you found him. That's number one. And B, that he was even talking. Because he never talks." She then added, "This happened so long ago that we have both healed. We've both moved on. I'm in a really great place, and so is he." What this timeline of 2 public apologies, separated by exactly a decade, reveals is not simply the slow arc of accountability. It reveals the structure of King's own healing. She did not demand apologies. She did not engineer confrontations. She told her truth when she was ready, and on each occasion the weight of that truth eventually compelled Bumpus to respond. The apologies came to her. She never chased them. King had said years before on her XM satellite radio show, "I was married to a cheater. I went to marital counseling. I have been divorced since 1993, so I'm all healed and everything. I have worked it out. I'm not bitter. I'm okay. I'm really okay." That is not the affirmation of a woman performing recovery. It is the statement of someone who genuinely did the work and found the other side of it. The life she built, that the betrayal could not touch. The years immediately following the divorce were years of steady forward motion. She remained at WFSB-TV in Connecticut, continuing to build her reputation as a trusted broadcaster. While many people navigating a painful separation might have chosen to retreat, King continued working. She continued showing up. She continued investing in herself professionally, even while rebuilding her personal life. Then came the opportunities that would transform her career from successful local journalist to national figure. In 1997, she launched The Gayle King Show, a nationally syndicated talk program that introduced her personality to a much wider audience. Viewers saw what friends had known for years. She possessed a rare ability to make people feel comfortable while simultaneously asking the questions that mattered. She could be warm without becoming passive. She could be empathetic without sacrificing journalistic rigor. 2 years later, another major opportunity arrived when she became editor-at-large of O, the Oprah Magazine. The position deepened her influence and expanded her platform. While many people knew her as Oprah Winfrey's closest friend, King increasingly established herself as a media force in her own right. The magazine role gave her another avenue through which to connect with audiences, tell stories, and shape conversations. By 2011, she joined CBS News full-time, entering one of the most competitive environments in American journalism. It was the kind of position that required not only talent, but decades of accumulated credibility. Networks do not hand such opportunities to people based solely on popularity. They require proof. King had spent years providing it. In 2012, she became co-anchor of what would evolve into CBS Mornings, a role that cemented her place among the country's most influential broadcasters. Millions of viewers welcomed her into their homes every morning. Politicians sat across from her. Celebrities sat across from her. Business leaders, activists, athletes, and world figures sat across from her. What made her effective was not aggression or theatrics. It was preparation. It was patience. It was her ability to listen. That ability became impossible to overlook during her now famous March 2019 interview with R. Kelly. The interview quickly became one of the most talked-about broadcast moments of the decade. As Kelly grew emotional and increasingly animated, King remained composed. She did not escalate the situation. She did not become the story. She maintained control through professionalism and calmness. Journalists, viewers, and media critics praised her performance as a masterclass in interviewing under pressure. But the Kelly interview was only one chapter in a much larger career. King reported from Paris following the terrorist attacks that shocked France in 2015. She covered the Supreme Court's landmark same-sex marriage ruling. She anchored election coverage during some of the most consequential political moments in modern American history. Again and again, she was trusted with stories that mattered because audiences trusted her. Recognition followed. She earned multiple Emmy Awards. In 2018, she was inducted into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame, a distinction reserved for individuals who have made lasting contributions to the industry. In 2019, she was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. In 2023, she received the prestigious Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. The financial rewards reflected the extraordinary career she had built. By the mid-2020s, her annual CBS salary was widely reported to be around $11 million. Her net worth was estimated at approximately $40 million. Those numbers tell part of the story. The larger story is that every dollar represented decades of persistence, preparation, and resilience. Yet perhaps the most meaningful measure of her success was never professional. It was personal. While Gayle King was building one of the most respected careers in television journalism, her children were quietly building impressive lives of their own. Her daughter, Kirby Bumpus, earned degrees from Stanford University and Columbia University before establishing a successful career. In December 2020, Kirby married Virgil Miller in a ceremony held at Oprah Winfrey's home. For Gayle, the wedding represented more than a family celebration. It was evidence of something she had worried about years earlier. The children she had raised during and after a painful divorce were thriving. In September 2021, Kirby gave her mother a new title, grandmother. A son named Luca arrived, instantly becoming the center of family attention. Then, in May 2024, Kirby welcomed a daughter named Grayson. In a touching coincidence, Grayson was born on May 12th, the same date as Kirby's own birthday. Meanwhile, William Bumpus Jr. followed an equally impressive path. After graduating from Duke University and Stanford University, he built a career in finance and became a managing partner at Phoenix Rising Capital. In June 2024, he married Elise Smith at Oprah Winfrey's estate in Montecito, California. The family continued growing. In November 2025, King proudly announced that William Jr. and Elise were expecting a daughter. By the time she appeared on Call Her Daddy in May 2026 and publicly revisited the story of her divorce, that child had already arrived. 3 grandchildren. 3. For a woman who once wondered how life would look after her marriage collapsed, that number carried enormous emotional weight. The family she fought to protect had not fractured beyond repair. It had expanded. And then came one of the most extraordinary chapters of all. On April 14, 2025, Gayle King boarded a Blue Origin spacecraft as part of the first all-female crew to travel to the edge of space. Alongside celebrities, scientists, and innovators, she participated in a mission that would have sounded like science fiction to the version of herself living in Connecticut in 1990. Imagine explaining that future to her. Imagine telling the 35-year-old woman standing in the aftermath of betrayal that one day she would leave Earth's atmosphere. It would have sounded absurd. Yet, it happened. After returning safely, King spoke with genuine amazement about the experience. She admitted that she had never believed she could do something so intimidating. What struck many people was not just what she accomplished, but how she described it afterward. She sounded proud. Not proud in a boastful sense, proud in the way people sound when they discover they are capable of more than they imagined. "I really am proud of me," she said. "I never, in a gazillion years, thought I could do this." The statement carried a deeper resonance because it reflected a lifetime of overcoming fears, setbacks, and limitations. Then, only days later, she attended the Time 100 Gala. Asked about the next item on her bucket list, she offered an answer that surprised some people and moved others. Getting married. Not winning another award. Not another career achievement. Not another historic assignment. Getting married. The answer revealed something profoundly human. Despite everything that had happened, despite the heartbreak, despite the public humiliation, despite the decades that had passed, she had not abandoned the possibility of love. By December 2025, she was openly telling audiences that she was still looking for her own great love story. When false AI-generated images later circulated online suggesting she had secretly married, she laughed off the rumors while clarifying the truth. "I'm not married, not even engaged," she said. "Believe me, if I was, you'd hear it here first." There is a particular beauty in that openness. It would be easy to become cynical after what she experienced, easy to conclude that trust is too risky, easy to decide that disappointment is inevitable. Many people do exactly that. Gayle King chose something else. She chose hope. Not blind hope, not naive hope, not the optimism of someone who has never been hurt, the optimism of someone who knows precisely what betrayal costs and still believes something wonderful might be waiting ahead. That may be the most remarkable achievement of all. Awards can be counted, salaries can be calculated, ratings can be measured, Hall of Fame inductions can be listed. But maintaining the ability to believe in possibility after life's deepest disappointments, that cannot be quantified. That is the part of Gayle King's story that extends beyond journalism, beyond celebrity, beyond success itself. A marriage ended in a bedroom in June 1990. A life did not. In many ways, it was only beginning. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.